lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be cast away.
Well, good morning and happy Sabbath. It was a crisp autumn day in the old city, and I decided to start the day wearing the clothes that I normally wore, and I put on a t-shirt that had a picture of myself when I was in my 20s. And it seemed like everybody enjoyed those years. And I heard of a gathering down by the street called Early Rain Lane. And I decided to go down and see what this gathering was all about. And as I was approaching, I heard some people cheering, and I heard some people jeering and booing. The cheerers were saying things like, "You can do it. You got it. Good job. Way to go." But I heard those who were jeering say things like, "You're wasting your time. There's no such thing as a new city." And so also on Early Rain Lane, I saw a large crowd of runners getting ready to resume a race. So I approached one of those people who were cheering them, and I asked them, what's this gathering all about? What is going on here? What's all this commotion? And she told me, well, all these runners are racing to get to the new city. And I asked, well, what's the new city? And she said, "Haven't you heard about it?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Well, the mayor of the new city sent out invitations to everyone. The new city is a place where we're told that there's no such thing as poverty, no such thing as crime, no such thing as taxes." I said, "I never heard about that. Interesting." And so I said, are you going? I asked her, "Are you going?" She goes, "Oh, by all means, yes, I'm going." And so then I looked at the runners. They're all about to resume their run. And I noticed that they were carrying a baton. And I noticed as well that they all were wearing a t-shirt with a picture of a man, the same picture of a man. Everyone had the same t-shirt on. And so I asked her, "Who's this man on all the runners' t-shirts?" And she goes, "Oh, you don't know?" She goes, "That's the mayor of the new city. He built the city, he paid for the city, and he's inviting everyone to come and live there." "See," she told me, and she pointed to her own t-shirt. And I looked at her t-shirt, and I got a little puzzled because, like me, her t-shirt had a picture of herself on it. Maybe a younger version, but it had a picture of herself, and I was puzzled. I said, "That's the mayor?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "That looks a lot like you." And she got a little offended. She got a little angry. She said, "No, that's the mayor of New City." Well, I didn't want to start an argument. So I decided, let me just switch the topic. I said, why aren't you running as well?" And she goes, "Oh, you know, what these runners are doing is noble and good. I commend them for it. I'm cheering them on. But you don't need to run to be welcomed in the new city," she said. I said, "What do you need?" She goes, "All you need is to wear the t-shirt of the mayor." I said, "Okay, that's interesting." So the runners were just about ready to resume, but then a bus pulled up. And as this bus pulled up, a whole bunch of names were being called. Some among the runners, some among the cheerers, some among the jeerers. And everybody whose name was called went into that bus. And when a runner was called, they took their baton and ran to someone in the crowd and gave them their baton. And one of the runners who were called ran up to me and gave me his baton. And he said, "I've been called to go into the bus, but the mayor has called you to run the race." And I was taken back. I was shocked. I took the baton out of his hand, but I wasn't sure what to do. I was stunned. And he told me, "Look at the brochure within the baton. Read it carefully. Study it. And look over it." So I took the baton, and I walked away from the crowd. I went by myself away from the crowd, and I found a place, and I opened the brochure. And this was not like any brochure. This was not just, in fact, there were no pictures on the brochure. It was a description of the new city, but even more, it talked about the mayor of the new city. And it pointed out the path to get to the new city. And as I read through the brochure, my heart was moved. My heart was stunned. My heart was stirred. And I said, I want to know this mayor better. I want to go to that new city. And as if someone was reading my mind, someone walked up to me and said, do you want to go to the new city? And I turned to this man who came to me. I said, who are you? He goes, I'm one of the aldermen of the new city. Do you want to see the mayor? And I said, yes. Yes, I do. He said, put on this shirt. Join the runners. Those who keep this shirt till the path's end or until they're called to the bus will be welcomed into the new city. So I took my shirt off, my shirt of my 20-year-old self. I took that off, and I put the new shirt on. I picked up the baton, and I went to go join the runners. Well, wait a minute, hang on, the man said to me. Take this with you as well. And he gave me a pouch, and I said, what's this for? And he said, on the path there are many stations. Make sure you replenish your supply of orange slices at each station. I said, okay. So I took the pouch, took the baton, put on that shirt, and took off. By the time I caught up to the runners, they were on a highway called the Wilderness Highway. And I caught up with them, and I discovered that among the runners there were many coaches. And so I came up to one particular coach, and I told him, I want to run the race. I want to join you in going to the new city. And so he gathered me to side with other new runners as well, and he said, I have some instructions for you if you want to run the race. Be careful to follow these instructions. Number one, follow me only as I follow the brochure. Number two, be ready to help those who are stumbling. Number three, do not lag behind or do not run ahead, because if you do these things, you're going to lose sight. You're going to lose your way. Number four, we cannot wait for those who throw down their baton. Number five, do not be discouraged by the jeerers. And likewise, number six, do not be deceived by the cheerers. Number seven, fill your pouch with orange slices at every station. And finally, number eight, most important, keep the mayor's shirt on you. So we resumed our run on Wilderness Highway, and man, that was a long route. I knew I was going to get tired. There are stations every few blocks with orange slices, but my energy level was high, and I did not think about it. I neglected to take an orange slice here and there at these different stations. One of the runners began feeling pain in their legs and began limping along. And I noticed the whole crew, the whole crowd of runners, slowed down and helped her out. One of the coaches especially were helping her out. Almost the whole crowd, almost the whole crew of runners slowed down for her pace. But a couple of them ran ahead. A couple of runners ran ahead. And one of the coaches called to them and said, slow down, you got to keep pace with everybody. But it seems that they did not hear, and very soon they were out of sight and we never saw them again. Either they veered off course or they mingled in with the crowd. I don't know. Every few miles there was a rest stop. And I noticed at these rest stops, some of the coaches and some of the runners took the time to read the brochure and also took the time to look at their T-shirts and examine their T-shirts. The knees of that wounded runner, that injured runner, eventually recovered, and we all picked up the pace. Another runner, while we were on Wilderness Highway, threw down his baton and said, I give up. And I stopped and I wanted to encourage him and tell him, no, don't give up yet, don't give up yet. But my coach told me he threw away his baton. There's nothing you can do to help him. Nonetheless, I called to him, but he would not respond. The group began moving on, and I was in danger of lagging behind. And so I felt I better move on. I better keep going. Several miles later, I began getting weary. My feet began dragging. And my coach noticed that. And my coach said, Have you been picking up the orange slices at the different stations? And I said, No, I haven't. He goes, That's why you're lagging right now. I asked him, Can I have one of yours? And he said, I'm sorry. No one can share their orange slices. But just a couple more blocks, though, we'll get to another station. There, make sure you replenish your pouch. Well, after a long time on Wilderness Highway, we came to a fork in the road. And while we were at that fork, I was tired, but I was eager to resume. And just then that bus appeared again and began calling out different names. And I asked my coach, I said, What is this bus? And he said, That's the Sheol bus. I said, The Sheol bus? And as the bus stopped and began calling out names, again I noticed there were some runners who were called, who gave their baton to others. There were some cheerers in the crowd who were called, and they went into the bus. There were jeerers who were called, and they went into the bus. And I asked my coach, How can so many people fit into this one bus? And he just laughed. He said, That bus has enough room for all of us and many more. And he left it at that. And again, as the runners handed off their batons to others who were called into the bus, new runners joined us, and they were given the same instructions that I were given. So we were at this fork now. We're at this split. To one direction was Wilderness Highway, but in another direction was a route called Reformation Road. And there was a dispute among the coaches and among the runners. Several coaches were telling their runners, You've got to stay on Wilderness Highway. But others said, No, we got to get onto Reformation Road. My coach told the runners, We have to get onto Reformation Road. But I asked him, Look, we've been on Wilderness Highway all this time. Why are we making this switch now? And he said, Look at the brochure. Where is it directing us to go? And so I took him up on that. And as there was contention among us, I heard some of the cheerers telling us, Don't worry, it doesn't matter what road you take. Just take whichever one you want. And I heard some of the jeerers in the crowd saying, You guys are all messed up. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. I was embarrassed. I was getting discouraged. And I was doubting whether or not I made the right choice to run this race. But I opened the brochure, as my coach told me. I read again about that new city. I read again and to see what path we ought to take. And I read again about the mayor. And my heart again was moved. My heart again was encouraged. My heart again was stirred. And it was clear to me that the brochure was telling us that we need to get onto Reformation Road. Many runners stayed on Wilderness Highway with their coaches, but those of us who studied the brochure started running up Reformation Road. Now, Reformation Road was a lengthy road. Furthermore, it was a little more steep. Wilderness Highway was nice and broad and flat, but Reformation Road was steep and it was a little more narrow. Some who earlier were still on Early Rain Road joined with us on Reformation Road. Some left Reformation Road and went back to Wilderness Highway. Some left Wilderness Highway and went on to Reformation Road. There was a lot of switching going on back and forth. As the path was a little more steep, it became more taxing. It became more trying. More runners needed help along the way. And as they did, we slowed down our pace. More got discouraged and threw down their batons. And some from the crowd, some jeerers and some cheerers as well, put on the mayor's shirt and picked up the baton that was thrown down and joined with us. We talked at length on the road about the mayor and about the new city. I drew close to my coach and we shared with one another about the things that we were learning. He told me that I notice that the directions in the brochure become clearer and clearer the more we travel the road. And I thought that that was interesting. He shared many other interesting tidbits that he learned from the brochure. And I picked up a few things from the brochure as well and shared those with him. I bonded with him, and I noticed that mile by mile we shared with one another of what we learned about the mayor and of the brochure as well. He inspired me to become more and more familiar with the path and with the brochure. And I asked him while we were running, why is it at the rest stop do you and others examine your T-shirt? Why do you take time to look closely at your T-shirt? And his answer startled me. He said, I want to be sure I still have the mayor's shirt on. And I was blown away by that. I said, what about me? I was startled because could it be that I put my own shirt back on? Maybe I'm like that cheerer that I saw originally who thought she had the mayor's shirt on but only had hers on. So going forward at every rest stop, I was going to be sure that I'm going to examine my T-shirt as well. After several miles, we came to another fork in the road. To our left was Three Angels Avenue, and to our right continued Reformation Road. And again, contention broke out amongst us. And again, coaches disagreed as to where to go. I opened my brochure, I read it carefully, and it was clear to me that the path led us to Three Angels Avenue. Some runners did not look at their brochure, but just followed their coaches. Some runners only scanned their brochure briefly, and they remained on Reformation Road. My coach and I and others with us, we all felt that we needed to choose Three Angels Avenue. And many who chose Three Angels Avenue, I noticed, began mocking those who remained on Reformation Road. They began demeaning them, began putting them down for making the decision that they were making. So as we started running on Three Angels Avenue, I asked my coach, what's going to happen to those who stayed on Reformation Road? What's going to happen to those who stayed on Wilderness Highway or on Early Rain Lane? What's going to happen to these people? Are we going to see them again in the new city? And the coach answered, the mayor knows. The mayor knows. And that satisfied me. The coach also warned all the runners on Three Angels Avenue about their attitude toward those who remained on Reformation Lane. He said, I want you to be careful, because if you continue to be cynical, if you continue to be demeaning, you're going to lose the mayor's shirt. I noticed that on this road, there were fewer cheerers than there were on their other roads. And I noticed as well that the jeerers in the crowd were becoming much more hostile. We came to one of the rest stops on Three Angels Avenue. And again, guess what pulled up next to us? The Sheol bus. Now, my coach had told me, I asked him about Sheol bus, about those who were going in, and he told me that those who go into Sheol bus wearing the mayor's shirt, we're going to see again at the end of the road, at the end of the route. And I was encouraged about that. But as the Sheol bus pulled up, I began listening, because just in case my name might be called. And sure enough, names were being called out one after another. Names among the jeerers, names among the cheerers, and names among the runners. But then I heard the name of my coach called out. And I was struck with fear, because this meant that my coach had to leave and get onto the bus. What was I going to do without his counsel? What was I going to do without his companionship? Who was I going to learn from? Who was I going to lean on if I had questions or perplexities or doubts? My coach knew that I had these fears. And he looked at me and said, the mayor knows you. You do not need me. You need him. Keep reading the brochure. Keep your pouch filled with orange slices. Keep helping other runners, and more than anything else, keep the mayor's shirt on. He, as well as many others, boarded the Sheol bus, I studied my brochure from there on more frequently. I became even more familiar with the path that it points out. And as he had been a big help to me, I was determined to be a help to others as well. And we resumed our run on Three Angels Avenue. Everyone on Three Angels Avenue knew that at some point we were going to have to take another path. And that path was called Latter Rain Lane. All agreed that the brochure pointed to Latter Rain Lane. But when the time came, when we came to that intersection where Three Angels Avenue went one way and Latter Rain Lane went the other, interesting enough, very few of us turned onto Latter Rain Lane. The vast majority continued on Three Angels Avenue. They did not even stop, and it seems that they did not even notice that they were at an intersection. We called to them, those of us who were ready to go on to Latter Rain Lane, we called to them and appealed to them. This is the path we're supposed to go on. This is where the brochure is pointing us to. But they acted like they did not even hear. We urged them, but they continued in the path that they were going. And then I noticed, as I looked a little more carefully, every one of them, their pouches were empty. And also I noticed that many of those who had mocked those who remained on Reformation Road did not turn onto Latter Rain Lane. And I told everybody we need to move on. The new city is before us. It's as if these people had thrown down their batons. We have got to move on. We've got to press to get to the new city. Many joined us, by the way, from all the other different roads, from Early Rain Lane, from Wilderness Highway, from Reformation Road. Many joined us on this path. Block by block, we discovered that the cheerers decreased and the jeerers increased while we were on Latter Rain Lane. Many joined us from the crowd as well, but I noticed that not one person who remained on Three Angels Avenue turned back and joined us on Latter Rain Lane. Our numbers swelled, our legs grew stronger, we began holding hands with one another, we seemed to be in perfect harmony, we sang songs with one another as we ran this path. We had a bond that I have never experienced before. Latter Rain Lane was a very short route, however. Very shortly after that, we came to a rest stop, we came to an intersection, and Latter Rain Lane turned into the Great Time of Trouble Trail. Every runner knew we need to get on to the Great Time of Trouble Trail. And oh my, it was not a pretty sight. It was very steep, it was very jagged, it was very narrow, it was very intimidating. And as I looked at the crowd, I noticed there was not one cheerer among the crowd on Great Time of Trouble Trail. The Sheol bus appeared again and began calling out names. And I said, oh, I want my name to be called. I want my name to be called. Because I did not want to go up that trail. But, to my chagrin, my name was not called. An extremely large number of runners had their names called and got onto the Sheol bus. But my name was not called. And I knew what this meant, that I had to take this trail. And I didn't know if I wanted to do this. I was getting ready to quit. But then all of us heard a voice coming from the direction of the new city. And it said, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth, and keepeth his t-shirt, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. The few of us left were encouraged when we heard that voice, when we heard that exhortation. And we exhorted one another. We encouraged one another. We buoyed up one another to begin the run. The jeerers, while we went on to the Great Time of Trouble Trail, the jeerers tried to grab for our batons and try to grab for our t-shirts as well. But the path was narrow, and as long as you stayed within that narrow path, their arms could not reach you. They came close, but their arms could not reach you. Every step that we had to make with care, because the path was so jagged and so steep. We had to make with extreme caution. It was extremely trying. It was extremely exasperating. And many of us were tempted to quit. We were about to give up when someone told us, wait a minute, there it is, Deliverance Drive is right before us. And our strength and enthusiasm returned as we saw this. Deliverance Drive was a short but very large cul-de-sac, very large enough to fit all the runners on there. And there were no crowds there, no jeerers, no cheers at Deliverance Drive. No one there to deceive us, no one there to try to discourage us. We all gathered at the end, thankful that our run was over. And Sheol Bus came up again, this time not calling any names, but opening its doors and letting out all the runners who had the shirt of the mayor. And there were reunions, beautiful reunions, tears of joy as people who had not seen each other for miles came together again. And there I saw my coach come off of Sheol Bus. I ran. I embraced him. I was about to tell him about all the things that we went through on Three Angels Avenue, on Latter Day Rain Lane, and also on the Great Time of Trouble Trial. And I was about to tell him about these things, but then we heard someone cry out, "Behold, the mayor is coming!" And we all stood reverently and in silence. All the runners looked up and were filled with awe. And when I saw the mayor, all my aches, all my pain, all my fatigue was gone. And I looked on one that I seemed to have known intimately almost all my life. But more than that, we all felt that he was looking at every one of us individually. His look was one of deep compassion, one of sympathy, one of love, one of as care. a thief. His eyes read me through and through. But in them there was no condemnation. In those eyes there was no demeaning glance, but just love and peace. I was struck with the sense that he was the one who had led me all that day, ever since I picked up that baton. He was the one that led me all the way through to Deliverance Drive. He ran the race with me, and I was deeply convicted he ran the race for me. As I looked upon him, I counted all that I endured in the run as nothing. And I felt if he told me to run that race again, I would do it. I would do it. He sang a song of joy over every one of us. My brothers and my sisters, are you a runner? Do you want to go to the new city? Has the mayor captured your heart? Is the mayor someone you want to spend eternity with? Or are you a cheerer? Someone who believes and encourages and wants to buoy up those who are running the race, but is not willing to run it themselves? Worse yet, are you a jeerer? One who seeks to be an obstacle to those who are running the race? Do you want to be a runner? I want to encourage you again to remember my coach's instructions. Follow the coach only as he follows the brochure. Be ready to help those who are stumbling, whose knees are hurting, whose legs are giving out. Do not lag behind the runners. Do not run ahead of the runners. Otherwise, you'll get lost. Do not linger for those who throw away the baton. Do not be discouraged by the jeerers. Do not be deceived by the cheerers. Fill your pouch with orange slices at every station. And more important than anything else, keep the mayor's t-shirt on. Only those who have this t-shirt on, in the end, will be welcomed into the new city.
stand with me and sing our closing song, number 625, Higher Ground? Number 625.